All right, let's dive into an idea from psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan that might just totally change the way you hear every single conversation from now on. We're going to explore this fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling idea that every time we speak, it's not just one voice coming out, it's two.
So let me just ask you this, right off the bat. When you speak, who is really doing the talking? I mean, the obvious answer is me, of course. But what if that's only half the story?
To see what I mean, just picture this scene. There's a guy at a bar, he's celebrating his own engagement. He turns to his friend and with a completely straight face gives him some advice. Never commit, never commit. I mean, how weird is that?
That one little moment perfectly captures the puzzle we're looking at today. You know, we all like to think we're in the driver's seat, that we're in full control of what we say. But then these moments happen. A weird slip of the tongue, advice that makes no sense, words that feel like they came from somewhere else entirely.
So how in the world do we make sense of this? Well, this is where it gets really cool. Lacanian psychoanalysis offers us a key to unlock this mystery. And the core idea is this. The confusion disappears when you realize there isn't just one I speaking. There are actually two. Okay, so let's meet our two speakers. On one side, you've got the subject of the statement. Think of this as your conscious self, your ego, the I that you think you are. But on the other side, we have the subject of the enunciation. Now this is the unconscious speaking through you. It's sometimes called the voice of the other because it's shaped by all the language and rules we've picked up from the world around us. Let's break that down a bit more. The subject of the statement is pretty straightforward. It's the I in your sentence, the public persona you're putting out there. It's the part of you that says, I am a diligent student, and completely means it. It's your conscious identity, the you that you present to everyone. But this second subject, the subject of the enunciation, this is where things get wild. This is the voice of the unconscious. And get this, it's not some little guy in your head using language. No, it's more like a ghost in the machine, a presence that is created by the very act of speaking. And it often reveals truths that your conscious ego would much rather keep under wraps. Okay, I know, this is all a bit heady, a bit abstract, so let's make it crystal clear with a really classic example you might have heard of. The paradox of the honest liar.
Imagine someone walks up to you and says just three little words. I am lying. Now just for a second, try to figure out if what they're saying is true or false.
And your brain just short circuits, right? Because if the statement is true, that means he's lying, which would make the statement false. But wait, if the statement is false, that means he's not lying, which makes the statement true. You get stuck in this impossible loop.
But if we use that two-subject framework, the whole thing just clicks into place. It's not a paradox at all. Look, the statement, the actual words, I am lying, that message comes from the ego, and it's a lie. But the enunciation, the very act of saying it, is completely truthful. The speaker is honestly telling you about their plan to deceive you. Two subjects, one sentence, and suddenly the paradox is gone.
Okay, so that was a fun little logic puzzle. How does this actually show up in, real life? Well, let's look at something you've probably done a million times, giving advice.
Let's go back to our guy from the beginning. The one who's celebrating his own wedding plans while telling his friend to run for the hills. Now we actually have the tools to figure out what was really going on there.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? The next time you find yourself dishing out some words of wisdom, just pause for a second and ask yourself, who is this advice really for? Is it for them or is it for me? See, here's the thing about the unconscious. It's not great at saying I. For the ego to admit, wow, I am terrified of commitment, is just too hard. It's a repressed thought. So the unconscious finds a loophole. It takes that thought and addresses it to someone else. So in the man's statement, he's talking to his friend, but in the act of speaking, in his enunciation, he's revealing his own deep internal conflict. That advice was for him all along.
So, let's pull all this together. What's the big takeaway here? How can we actually use this idea to understand ourselves and the people around us a little bit better? What do our words really, truly reveal?
Well, here are the key ideas. First, the unconscious isn't some deep, dark monster buried inside you. No, it's right there on the surface, woven into the very fabric of how you speak. Second, this means you aren't the sole master of your words. In a very real way, language also speaks through you. And finally, and this is the big one, the real truth, the unconscious truth, is often found in that little gap between what you say and the act of saying it. There's this fantastic quote from the writer Dylan Evans that just nails this whole concept. He says, "The source of speech is not the ego nor consciousness, but the unconscious." Our words come from a place so much deeper than we realize. The whole idea that I am the only one in control of what I say, well, it turns out it's an illusion.
And that's really what I want to leave you with. The next time you speak, or you're listening to somebody else, try to listen differently. Don't just hear the words, listen for the gaps, the weird contradictions, the Freudian slips. Because the real question isn't just what you're saying to other people, it's what is your own speech trying to tell you.